Hello, my name is Joanne Knight. Welcome to the barn. I wanted to take a couple of minutes and talk to you about this little quilt right here, and it's called Here a Chick, There a Chick, and I love it. It is so sweet. My buddy Kent Lee did this quilt for me, and it was time to come and quilt it, and we all run into these situations where you have, I want to call it like fractured applique, and by that I mean that you've got vines and you've got leaves, and it's not one applique in the middle of a block. It's got stems and all of these things, and Phil is not happy whenever you try to do Creative Studio on this kind of applique. Phil works best when the applique that you want to avoid is in the center, and you're just going to fill up to it and back off. With this one, you've got all of these stems and leaves, and so Phil would have to go in and out, and it's not going to be happy with you whenever you try to do that. So I needed to come up with another way to do this quilt, and I wanted to share with you what I've done. You'll see here on the bottom, these are some patterns that I was looking at to be able to do the little half square triangles that you see all around the quilt. I'm going to switch over to another project, the one that I actually quilted the quilt in, and I'm going to show you what I chose to use in the quilt. What I actually picked were these patterns right here. They gave it a little bit of movement to me, but yet they broke up whatever I did in behind the applique, and they ended up looking like little eggs. It gave it a lot of texture in this quilt. So the first thing that I did on this quilt was load it horizontal, because I decided that I wanted to do long straight lines. It's kind of a primitive looking quilt, and I wanted to do long straight lines through this. If I varied the lines, in other words, if I did not make them exactly a 1/4 inch apart, then if shrinkage came into play, it would not matter, and it would fool your eye when you got to these seam lines on the blocks. I wanted the straight lines to carry from one block to the next, and so that's why I loaded the quilt horizontally, so that I could do those straight lines. What I wanted to do was my draw arc last on this, because I thought that if I did the straight lines, then the draw arc around the applique would be able to kind of hold those straight lines. It did not work to do that way, and the reason that it didn't is because the machine head would get caught on the straight lines. And the reason that it got caught is because I used regulated, hand-guided to be able to do my straight lines, and I used channel lock on this quilt. Rather than do draw line and having stopping and starting, it was so much easier to do channel lock and regulated and just guide the quilt and guide the machine down through this quilt. So let's look at that just a minute. I changed up my tool strip to be able to put hand guided and regulated up on my tool strip. Hand guided is just a little shortcut to keep you from having regulated, constant, and based all on your tool strip and take up 3 different icons on your tool strip. Regulated has its own icon, and if I click on the down arrow, you can see that there's 3 different options: original, plus, and smooth. Original, if I click on that, it means that the machine is going to stop. When I quit moving the machine, it's going to stop right where I stop. On the smooth, it's going to move when the machine moves. In other words, when I take my hand and I guide that machine, it's going to start to move, and it's going to move really slowly. Plus is the one that I use, and the reason that I use it is because I'm not real good at this freehand, and I need a little jump start. So when you do plus, and you click on regulated, the machine is going to start to move, and it's going to move, or the needle is going to start to move, and it's going to start moving and kind of jump start you whether the machine is moving or not. So it kind of gives you a running start, and it does that on the start and on the stop. If I left click on regulated, you have this box come up right here. Anytime on the keypad you see the word shift, that means that something is hidden. So if I left click on shift, you see this change to needle position right here? What that means is if I left click on it, I can tell Creative Studio that when I stop, I want it to stop with the needle down. And so when I stop, the needle's going to be down. So if I roll the quilt, if I should have to roll the quilt, the machine is going to stay with the head and the needle in the same position. So that's what you want to do there. Your stitches per inch, I took mine at 14 because that's kind of the norm for me. And then here's my channel lock right here. And because I loaded the quilt horizontal, then my channel lock was at a 0 the whole time. So that's a little bit of an explanation about what I did. When I started out with the draw arc, it didn't take me long to realize that the machine was going to get caught on those threads, because even though you clip the threads on the top, you have the threads on the bottom. So the first thing that I did was the half square triangles. I wanted to keep that border as straight as possible, and I put those patterns in, still working within my sewable area. Then I would do the draw arc around all of the applique that I could reach and do my stitch in the ditch, and then come back and do my channel lock with my regulated and do my stops and starts with my straight lines. I used my little piece of plastic, my little piece of grid, to be able to say whether I wanted the lines to be a 1/4 inch off or whether I wanted them to be a 1/2 inch off. And I would have the machine, because I was using the plus, the machine would start stitching, and that would give me a little bit of a tie off, hit my channel lock, go to the top of the applique, then hit stop. I'm still got channel lock on, so I dragged the machine until I was on the other side of the applique, hit start, and then come down and do my straight line to this seam line. Then I would hit stop, drag the machine head over to the next block, and do my regulated stitching until I got to the leaf, hit stop, jump over the leaf, and do it until I saw the next applique, hit stop, jump over that applique, hit start, and go to this one. So there were a lot of stops and starts, and there was a lot of dragging of the thread, but with that plus regulated, because it's stitched in place, it secured that thread. Whenever I got through with it, all I had to do was just go back and clip those pieces of thread. The channel lock made sure that I stayed in a straight line going all the way. Now when I got to the bottom, let me go over to this side so you can see. When I got to the bottom, I would disengage the channel lock, and you can do that from the keypad, run the ditch line in the seam, set channel lock back on, and then go back up, going from right to left, doing the same thing. Stitch to the applique, hit stop, drag the machine head, which would also drag the thread, over the applique, hit start, and continue until I ran into more applique. And it turned out really, really cute. I used a double bat on it, and because I used a double bat, it gave it some dimension, and it really was a cute quilt, and I was real happy with it. The lessons that I learned on this is that you have to do your draw arc with your stitch in the ditch first, and then do your regulated with channel lock to be able to do your straight lines. And if those lines are varied, then you're not going to have to worry about any shrinkage, and you don't have to worry about dividing this out and trying to make sure that those are equal distances apart. So that's just another way that you can probably accomplish any background quilting that you have to do whenever you're doing something applique. It doesn't always have to be something swirly. So I hope this helped you, and I hope it gives you a chance to be able to have another option and another alternative for doing field work behind applique. Thank you.